Now, you mentioned the Beatles. We're about the same age. Did you come up with the Beatles?
Yes, I mean, I'm pretty much a Beatles fanatic, and the reason I'm a musician is because of the Beatles. When I was 5, I saw them on Ed Sullivan and thought, that looks like a good job.
I was like, I think 7.
And
I had the same experience.
Okay.
And it's very hard for people today to understand what Beatlemania was.
Right.
I mean, it's larger than anything we can imagine today.
It is, and it's hard for young people to realize the impact that they had, because to some folks it means, well, I've heard of the Beatles, it's just another band, but they really weren't.
That band Paul McCartney had before Wings?
Right. And it really, I would consider it a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon, and reaching much farther than the music itself, even though the music stands and it is art music by and large. And
well, at first it reaches beyond a bunch of cute guys that girls liked.
Right.
Because it was that.
Right.
And it was a huge phenomenon just at that level.
Right.
Then at a deeper level, it was incredible music.
It took a minute, and the musicologists started going inside and found out, wait a minute now, there's some unusual chord progressions. Wait a minute, there's some irregular phrases. There's things going on here lyrically, harmonically, form-wise,
Exactly.
et cetera. And really, the Beatles revised rock and roll. It was pretty much dead, and they kind of took our art form and brought it back after it was sort of dead, and Motown is what was happening in the early 60s, and groups like the Ventures, I guess beach music, but they reinvented it for us.
From what I've read, they were surprised that we weren't hip to all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, especially all the early black stuff that formed their opinions of music. They got to America and it was like starting over again, where people were like, oh yeah.
Right.
This is cool music.
So there were some good publishing checks coming to some of those artists that previously were kind of
some of the covers they did.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Beatles always attributed what they did to African American music, and that was.
But so I look at it as there's the cute boys that the girls dig, right?
Right.
Then there's the great music. Then there's the good, like just at a social, cultural level.
Oh, right.
A phenomenon that you know, it's going to be hard to top that.
It really is, because they ushered in. Well, first of all, they established the prototype for a rock ensemble. That wasn't established, a guitar band, guitar, bass, and drums. It's so cliche. We see it today. I mean, there's all kinds of bands, you could name them on and on and on, but it wasn't established. And the fact
That's a good point.
that there was, up to that point in time, whether it was pop music, it was always focused on one singer. I mean, it was Frank Sinatra. It was Elvis Presley.
Bing Crosby.
Yeah, right. It was Buddy Holly and the Crickets. It was Chuck Berry. I mean, and a few of them are writing their own music, but most of them weren't.
Right.
But the Beatles not only wrote all their own music, they all sang. You could focus on any one of them instrumentally or vocally, and they all wrote eventually. So that in itself was unheard of, and it kind of confused the industry at first, but it opened up things for everybody.
You know, you should teach a course in this.
Well, you know, it's it's a dream come true. I never thought that I would, but it was kind of an obsession informally, but then I had to start formally researching to try to get it right.
Well, you speak very passionately about it. That's a hallmark of a great teacher.
I'm a believer in the Beatles, an advocate, and for Ringo Starr as a drummer too. I think he's a very important drummer, misunderstood by many jazz drummers, but a very important drummer, probably the most important architect of rock drumming, I would say.
I would agree with that. And I was a jazz drummer coming up as a kid, and once you come up through Gene and Buddy and Louis Bellson,
right,
and then you see a guy playing time with the Beatles, it took a minute to
right.
kind of figure that out. Well, this is profound.
It's a problem to compare Ringo to Buddy Rich. I mean, I hate to say apples and oranges, but
absolutely.
But those are two entirely different drummers functioning completely different in different genres, different mediums. So,
like comparing Beethoven to Picasso or something.
Exactly.
You just can't do it.
Right. So you have to really get inside Ringo. I would say to drummers, play All My Loving and see if you can figure out what Ringo's doing on that song you think you know. That's usually the best test. If you think, you know, if you,
that's one of those ones that's kind of slippy slidey between rock and swing, and
there's
the
magic of Ringo, early Ringo, and you'd have to break him down into early years and later years because he does something fantastic in both eras. But it's the open hats, it's playing in the cracks. It's not eighth notes, it's not triplets. He's
so
kind of got the New Orleans things going a little bit,
and he's back there. Loose and fun, man.
Yes, he's got all the club date stuff that he was using in the early Beatles, and you hear the old Charleston rhythm. There's all kinds of things happening. There's a very hybrid style that he's playing, and he's really inventing what is going to be the template for rock drumming, and he's the guy. Now
I want to take your course.
Okay, all right.
Can I take it?
Come on, please. It's going to go national next year.
All right,
So let's
I'll
hope
be
somebody
on it
else
then.
adapts it. We can get you online.
Ringo lives, man.
Really?
Well, he's still alive, thank goodness.
Yes,
But he'll always
yes.
live. Thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you,
And it's a pleasure
Michael.
to talk some Beatles with you, talk some jazz, talk some music. And I hope you find some pies you like while you're here.
Okay, thank you. I'm
All right,
sure I
man.
will.
Take care.
All right.